The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 111. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 111, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to public safety.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Moeller, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is a combination of two items that we heard last year. Last year on the floor, we amended our public safety omnibus bill in light of a Minnesota Supreme Court case that came out in the spring called the McReynolds case. In that case, a man used his cell phone to secretly record a woman naked in her bed without her consent. He was prosecuted, convicted of interference with privacy. Unfortunately, the Minnesota Supreme Court reversed that conviction based on the plain language of the statute that a person is guilty if they use a device for recording, quote, through the window or any other aperture of a house or place of dwelling of another, close quote. The court held that our statute, that language that I just quoted, is not violated when the recording occurs in the same room with a cell phone camera. This case establishes the need to modernize our statutes to reflect how modern technology is being used to victimize people. I suspect that when this law was written, I think it was written back in the 90s, nobody envisioned that we would have devices like cell phones that could make a recording. And if you remember back to the old cameras that people used to use, you know, the giant cameras. So I think at the time nobody would understand that this would be the technology to be used to record people. The Supreme Court in McReynolds even acknowledged that its decision created an absurd result and one that could result in stalkers gaining access to their victims' homes to record them, but the court said it was bound by the language of the statute and even recommended how the legislature could fix this problem. And the bill does just that. It prohibits these types of secret recordings in places and situations where victims would have a reasonable expectation of privacy. You have a letter of support from the Minneapolis City Attorney's Office, and that letter further describes the Minnesota Supreme Court McReynolds case. Members, the second thing that this bill does is also from last year, and it changes the statute of limitations in these cases. Those of you who were here before might remember that this was a Representative Miller bill that was also included in our omnibus bill, and it was based on an issue brought to him by constituents. One of his constituents, Madeline, testified in committee this year as well about what happened to her and other women victims, and I just wanted to read her testimony. I have permission from her to read this to you. Madeline says, unbeknownst to me, my personal story of victimization and exploitation occurred on April 22nd, 2018. On that date, nearly 5 years ago, I accepted an offer from a childhood friend to tour his pig farm in Olivia, Minnesota. I viewed this as a novelty experience. I was told I would have to shower because of biohazard requirements. Hog barns are biohazard controlled, meaning by law, one must shower in and shower out. I did as told and continued with the tour, never thinking about this again until May 3rd, 2021. That was the day that my sense of security was ripped away from me and the definition of betrayal took on new meaning. On this day, an article published by the West Central Tribune was sent to me. The link was titled, Olivia Man Alleged to Have Filmed Women in the Shower at His Hog Barn. I read the article multiple times just to make sure I was understanding it correctly. 23 videos and 104 still images were surreptitiously taken of naked women showering at his farm without their knowledge and consent between October 30th, 2016 and December 12th, 2019. I felt physically ill and emotionally traumatized because I knew at that moment I was a victim of a sexually motivated crime. I had no idea of the emotional roller coaster path that lay before me, nor did I understand the gravity and impact it would have on my mental health. I would become known as victim number 11 out of 17 female victims to the Renville County Sheriff's Office. After connecting with the lead investigator in the case and confirming my identity in one of the videos, I learned the predator used the same method of operation in committing every one of his crimes. He waited until each of his victims were showering off, wherein he simultaneously snuck out, climbed up a ladder, watched and filmed me and 16 other women naked through an egress-style window. What further compounded this traumatization was what I learned next. My case would not be included in the charges brought against the perpetrator under this statute because the 3-year statute of limitations for interference with privacy had expired just 8 calendar days before discovering I was the victim in his predatory scheme. Only 6 out of the 17 victims in this case were protected and considered chargeable offenses, while 11 women have been left to deal with the ongoing consequences of this predator's actions and without our day in court, all due to the inadequate statute of limitations for interference with privacy. And Madeline goes on to talk about the need to pass this bill, and that's because the statute of limitations, victims don't know that this has even happened to them, and by the time they find out, the statute of limitations has expired. So this bill seeks to fix that and provide justice to victims in these situations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Moeller moves to amend House Law Number 111 as follows. The amendment is coded A1.
I recognize the author of the amendment, the member from Ramsey, Representative Moeller, to explain the A1 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment puts the bill in alignment with an amendment that was made in the other body. It's good for victims in that it allows, in any of those cases where that time period is still open, they'll also have the benefit of this new statute of limitations. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any further discussion to the A1 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the A1 amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended.
Third reading, House Law Number 111 as amended.
Third reading as amended. Discussion to House File 111. I recognize the member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a really important bill, and I want to just point out to the public that's watching, this is how we should do every single bill. This is real. It came from some court cases, and Representative Moeller and I have worked for years on doing this sort of work. And I just want to thank you for that, and thank you for continuing to reach out to me, even though I'm not in public safety anymore. But the work is really, really important, and I see that there are other Republican authors on this as well. Members, this is a real problem. I would think every person in this room, every son and daughter that you have, every aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, grandma, has an expectation in their own home for a sense of privacy. And if somebody sets up a recording device and records you in the privacy of your own home, that should be unlawful. Simply put, you should have privacy in the privacy of your own home. And then the second half is Representative Miller's bill. And of course, he's not here with us this time as he chose not to run again. But that is also incredibly important because one also would think that if you have been asked to go through that, which is very common in the ag world, that you would not be recorded doing that, making sure that the animals are kept safe. So that's also part two, incredibly important. So members, this is a real bill. This is really important. This is a bipartisan work. I could not thank Representative Moeller more. Thank you so much for including us and checking in with me and looking at the bill together. I appreciate that. I appreciate the work that we've done throughout the years. And members, this is how we should do everything. This is how legislation should be done. So I just want to applaud you and thank you, and please vote yes on this bill. Thank you, members and Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion? I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that, Representative O'Neill. It's been a real honor to work, especially on these issues with you over the years. And thanks to all of the bipartisan support that we have on this bill. Representative Miller, if he's watching, I did tell him this was coming here today and he wasn't able to join us, but really appreciate him bringing this issue forward on behalf of his constituents. Nonpartisan staff worked to modernize this statute for us and really am thankful for their work. But I especially want to thank Madeline, who is here with us tonight. She is really kind of the spokesperson on behalf of many of the survivors who experienced this. And I will never be ceased to be I will never stop being amazed by the survivors of sexual assault who time and time again come to us, tell us their stories, knowing that if we fix the law in this way, it can't retroactively impact their cases, but yet they keep on coming, telling us where they didn't get justice so that we can make sure there's justice for the next person. And I really look forward to hopefully seeing a unanimous vote tonight. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on House File 111. Representative Herr, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 130 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to.